December 20, 1924, the Afro-American, Baltimore, Maryland. Fans mourn woman jockey. Was only colored racehorse owner in Oklahoma and one of few stable owners. Was her own jockey. Several times rode her own horses to victory when dissatisfied with jockeys. Ponca City, Oklahoma, December 17. With the demise of Mrs. Eliza Carpenter, 75, of the city, marks the passing of one of the most picturesque sportswomen of the race. She was one of the pioneers who made the famous run into Indian Territory on the opening of that strip of land. Aunt Eliza, as she was known in Kansas, Oklahoma, and Kentucky, was a former slave and had been sold twice in her lifetime before the conclusion of the Civil War. As the only Negro racehorse owner in Oklahoma and one of the few colored stable owners in the West, she was for many years one of the best-known racing followers. She was born in 1849 in Virginia. At the age of 6, her master sold her to a Kentucky slaveholder, who resold her at the age of 8 to a Missouri planter. When the Civil War gave her freedom, she returned to Madisonville, Kentucky. There, she developed a fondness for thoroughbred horses, and on moving to Kansas, she purchased several racehorses, training them herself. On one occasion, when a white man, with whom she had bet on the outcome of a race, had refused to pay, it is said that a slight quarrel ensued. 2 blows were struck, one when Aunt Eliza landed a blow squarely to the jaw, and the second when the man hit the ground. Though independent, she was a friend of those of her race who were in misfortune. Her attendance at the race courses made her known in many states. Recently, she was on a visit to Kentucky, where an uncle was said to have left her $25,000. She was thrown from a buggy when a thoroughbred horse she was driving became frightened. She never recovered from a fractured skull, according to Zula Dickinson, who nursed her during her last illness. She returned to Ponca City in August. A fortnight she suffered a stroke of paralysis and died last Tuesday afternoon. Aunt Eliza has not raced for the last 5 years. George Benson is her administrator. Her estate will probably go to 2 nephews, Frank and Virgil Gillum, of Madisonville, Kentucky, who were here for the funeral. In Arkansas City, she began racing her horses and several times rode her own favorites in the races. When the Cherokee Strip was thrown open for settlement on September 16, 1893, Aunt Eliza decided to try for the $1,000 prize offered for the first person who should reach the side where Ponca City was to be established. Mounted on a 1,000-pound chestnut-colored mare, Aunt Eliza made a great race, but was outdistanced, though she beat the first train to cross. She continued to train her horses for racing and participated in races at Winfield, Blarkwell, Arkansas City, Newkirk, Anthony, and Topeka. Alla Lucky Johnson, who is still in the racing game and who is now in Ponca City waiting for the racing season to reopen, was the jockey who rode most of her horses. Some of the best known of these were Irish Maid, Bluebird, Jimmy Rain, Sam Carpenter, and Little Brown Jug, which she raced at Tijuana, Lower California. In several cases, dissatisfied with the way the race was going, Aunt Eliza was known to ride her own horses, sometimes to victory. January 18, 1890, The Freeman, Indianapolis, Indiana. T. Thomas Fortune, of New York, author and journalist, and prime mover of the Afro-American League Convention. From filling an onerous post of devil in a Florida printing office to occupying an editorial desk on a metropolitan daily would indicate a somewhat varied journalistic experience. such as that enjoyed by the subject of this sketch, T. Thomas Fortune. Born in Marianna, Jackson County, Florida, October 3, 1856, Mr. Fortune is now only in his 34th year. His first appearance on the world's stage of action was as a page in the Florida Senate, a position obtained through the influence of his father, Honorable Emanuel Fortune, who bore an active and prominent part in the Reconstruction politics of that state. This position he held for 4 years. In 1868, owing to the Ku Klux troubles, the elder Fortune removed his family from West Florida and settled at Jacksonville, where young Fortune was placed in the office of the Daily Union as Devil. Here, he soon mastered the rudiments of typesetting, but on a change in the management of the paper, he spent the next 2 years in attendance at the Stanton Institute, a public school. He then entered the post office as office boy and soon rose to the position as letter stamper and paper clerk. Owing to a disagreement with the postmaster, he resigned his position and returned to the case. In 1874, he was appointed a mail route agent through the kind offices of Honorable W.J. Perman, then member of Congress for the 2nd District of Florida. In the summer of 1875, he resigned his position and was appointed by Secretary Bristow, at the insistence of Mr. Perman, as a special inspector of customs for the District of Delaware. At the end of a year, he resigned and entered Howard University at Washington, where he remained 2 years. He then returned to the South and worked again on the Jacksonville Daily Union. In 1881, he went to New York and obtained work on the Weekly Witness, where he laid the foundation of many warm friendships which exist at this day. In 1882, in conjunction with George Parker and William Walter Sampson, he undertook the publication of The Rumor, a weekly yapper devoted to the interest of our citizens of African extraction, the name of which was changed shortly afterward to the New York Globe. Mr. Fortune had the editorial management, and here began the brilliant career which won him recognition as the leading editor of his race. Internal dissensions among the partners, caused by the transfer by one partner of his interest to an outside party, led to the suspension of the publication and the seizure of the entire plant of the newspaper, including the type and the fixtures necessary to get it out. Undismayed by this heavy blow, Mr. Fortune exhibited his grit and determination, calling around him his office force and announcing his intention of issuing at once a new paper to take the place of the Globe, under his sole ownership. By strenuous efforts, the newspaper was issued on November 22, 1884, with only the lapse of a week, under the name of the New York Freeman, and the plucky venture met with instant success. In October 1887, Mr. Fortune transferred his publication interest in the Freeman to his younger brother and the writer, who changed the name of the paper to the New York Age, while the elder Fortune extended his efforts to a wider field. Starting as a reporter on the Evening Sun under the editorship of the Honorable Amos J. Cummings, he was quickly promoted to a position on the editorial staff. During the year that he remained in the Sun office, his editorial articles were readily accepted for both the morning and evening editions. Last fall, he left the city and spent several months in newspaper work and campaign work in the West. Since his return, he has resumed editorial work on the Age, besides making frequent contributions to outside publications. Besides his newspaper writings, Mr. Fortune has published one book entitled Black and White, a bold, thoughtful study of the land, labor, and social problems in the South, which received much commendation from the press and had a large sale. He has also published a pamphlet entitled The Negro in Politics, being a caustic resume of the way in which the colored vote has been juggled with by parties. Mr. Fortune's style in speech and writing is always terse and vigorous, and his epigrammatic mode of expression never fails to arrest and hold the attention of his hearers or readers. His fearless manner of proclaiming his beliefs under any circumstances gives an added weight to his utterances. Of a quick, nervous, energetic temperament, when he espouses a cause he is in it for heart and soul, and does not spare himself in his exertions to further it. In addition to his other library labors, Mr. Fortune is the author of many poems, some of which have been published in his own and other papers, notably the Springfield Republican. Jerome B. Pedersen.